black and white use. And then we're going to get into using the tool, okay, the foreground, the background. So let's go ahead and move into that because several of you have had questions. So there's the things we're talking about: color panel, swatch panel, color picker, and eyedropper tool, okay? So let's get into it. So where is this tool actually located at? Where's this button? It's on your tools what?
Panel.
Panel. It's on your tools panel down at the bottom. So we tricked y'all out in Photoshop Basics early on, didn't we?
Yeah.
What's the black? Foreground or background?
That's the foreground.
The white is?
Background.
And the button up here will always take you back to
The original.
the default. The default setting. Okay, that button will take you to the default. What's another way you can get to the default setting on that tool? Shortcut key.
Darn.
D for default. Okay? The little arrows back and forth are going to take you and do what? They're going to switch the foreground and background. It's important to know. What's a shortcut to do that for you too? X. X will switch those, okay? Alright, so then we're actually in the color panel now. So when we actually hit that button over there, and we either pick the foreground or the background, it's going to open up what?
The color.
Color panel. And we're going to see the same two buttons, right? Foreground and background.
And you can set a color for each.
And we're going to set a color, okay? And in this particular case, we're using the 3 channels in what mode?
RGB.
RGB, okay? Which is what you're going to use probably 90% of the time because you're working on the computer, right? You're only going to change something or actually send something to the printer in CMYK once you're probably done with all your edits, okay? You're not going to probably typically work in CMYK mode. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I mean,
Because
can you though?
You can, okay? But that's where you're going to run into trouble. Because when you're working in CMYK on your monitor, do you think those colors are going to be the same as what that color mixes?
No, because it's still going to be.
Because that's using light, and that's not,
It'll be still using the RGB.
okay?
Show
It's
it.
just not going to be exactly the same. If you want to test it, pull up a photo, make some edits, make some changes while you're in CMYK mode, and then send that to the printer. Pull up the same original photo, try to make all the same edits in RBG mode, and then convert that and send that to the printer and see if you got 2 pictures that are exactly the same. I bet you they're not. I bet you there's a little bit of variation in it. Okay? Alright, so we can pick and choose by channel, right? Or I can click on that and it'll take me to this window. Okay? A little more in depth. Now there's some key things in here whenever we want to click on that foreground button or the background button, either one, and opens this up. What do we see here? What is this window?
Your darkness and things.
What is that showing me? By being dark, the light,
Your foreground
The
color.
shades of the color
Shades
you
of it.
selected on the slider.
or the, what else?
Hue.
Yeah, other colors.
See, it's on the hue, right?
Saturation.
It is showing me the hue, which is in the blue range, right? And the saturation is going to go from left to right, lighter to,
Okay.
Darker.
Now all those letters are making sense down there.
and the brightness is going to go from bottom
To top.
to top. Does that make sense to you? That's why this thing is shaped and colored the way it is. The more intense my color is, the farther to the
Right.
the brighter my color is, the farther to the top. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm seeing here is the HSB, which is more in what I what? More in what I see. Okay? What's showing up outside in all these others is the equivalent of those other modes. So each one of these choices that's going to adjust as I move through there is the same choice of that color in each one of these other modes. Does that make sense? Okay, that's important. What do we see here?
The new and the current.
New and the current. Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. What is this strip here?
Other colors.
Change your color from blues to reds.
That's my hue strip.
There you go.
Okay? That's going to allow me to change. Notice, I'm in the blue range, right?
Yeah.
That's why everything over there is blue. If I were to come down here to yellow, that would all change, right? Or red or whatever, correct? All right, so really important. Now, I can take it and actually just move right within there as well. Okay? Or I can adjust it however I want to, manually, whatever you want to do. Okay?
What's that one box do right there?
These?
Yeah, no, that second one on the bottom of the.
The number?
This one?
No. That one.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay? These are warning signs. What do you think those two warning signs are?
Telling you that it's a drastic change from the last color you selected?
There's two warnings there. One is a warning for print, for CMYK mode. The other is a warning for web mode. What those warnings are telling you is that you have a problem with this selection that you have right now if you want to send that to the printer. So if you want to fix that, I will select the next closest color that we have that matches that color mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The bottom one is for web. We're going to talk a little bit more about that one because on the internet, we like our files to be what? Large or small?
Large. Small.
Small.
Small. Why? Because we want them to,
They fit a lot of information.
we want them to load faster, right?
Yeah.
We want them to be small and compressed so that they load faster and they're smaller in nature and size, right? So when we do things for the web, we have a smaller color group that we're going to use. So what this is telling me in this warning sign is that this is not going to be web compatible. So I can hit that little button and resolve to the next closest web compatible color. Okay? That's extremely important if you are in design, especially if you're in design for web, right? Because we want to be able to use the colors that are going to come through on the internet, right? That everybody's going to be able to translate and see. So you can see how those modes are going to start becoming really important, aren't they? In your files, the information, the size of the files, the data that's stored in the file, all of that plays a role.
And you can even check that box down at the bottom that says only web colors.
Yes, you can. Very good. And what happens when you check that?
All the colors will
Just
change?
This whole spectrum changes to a very small selection, doesn't it?
I've never used it though, so.
Okay, well you should jump in there and take a look at it.
I thought about clicking on
We talked about dragging or clicking and everything. Now, there's your swatch panel.
Okay, I know what that is.
Oh.
I was wondering, when you pick web only, does the web warning even go away or does it stay?
Sure. Would it go away?
It should, right?
It should. You wouldn't get a
'Cause
web
you don't
warning
make-
if you're on web-only colors, would you?
You'd have only the colors that would show up on the web.
So you would probably never get a warning there, would you? Okay, so your swatch panel. Now, remember what I told you, little pieces of fabric that are cut out. That's what you got, squares. It's just a quick selection tool is all it is. If I want this color, bam, there it is. You can add swatches. You know, let's say I'm using a particular design principle that I want to be consistent. I have letterhead, I have, I don't know, logo, lots of company material that I'm going to be printing, right? Well, I want to be consistent in the color scheme that I use, right? So maybe the 3 or 4 colors that I use within my logo and my letterhead and all that stuff, maybe I want to create my own little swatch so that I make sure I get the same colors all the time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
There's like a website for that, ain't there? It tells you something.
Yeah. That's just another panel you can use. Okay? That's a third-party plugin for Photoshop. I'm not going to worry about borders right now. We've already talked about locking different parts of a layer, right? Gradient tools. You can apply some gradients later
How
on.
do you change the gradient style? Because I couldn't find out how to do that.
The gradient style?
Like, all it had